To the Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting for October the 2nd, 2024. We are moving towards fall very, very quickly, and it'll be Halloween before we know it, right? Before every commissioners meeting, before we officially start, we always invite local clergy to come and pray with us and obviously for us and for this community. And this morning is no exception. Michael Brandenburg is here. He comes many, many times. He is the pastor of Greenbush Baptist Church. We are pleased to have you. Michael, would you lead us in prayer?
Thank you, Commissioners. It's an honor to be here. Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given us today. And as we rejoice in this day that you have created, Lord, we pray for those who are displaced and missing in the South and the Southeast, and for their families as they navigate the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. And today we plan our course, Lord, but we pray that you establish our steps. I pray that we seek you for advice. And Lord, let us not make decisions based upon what we know, but let us act based upon your wisdom. I specifically pray, Lord, for those gathered in this chamber, that we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have difference of opinion, give us unity of spirit. Help us to teach others to listen and listen politely as others have shared their points of view, and help us to work as unified, combining ideas for the greater outcome. Satisfy the needs that we need to be met during this meeting today. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions. We commit this meeting to you. Come and reveal your will in every aspect of our life and our purpose. And as we discuss the affairs of this county, we ask for your will to be done. Show us your purpose. Enlighten us that we may know what you want us to accomplish in our tasks today. We desire your glory and blessing in all that we do. Direct our thoughts, words, decisions, and actions towards the right path, and help us to stay on the path that you have ordered. Let your will be done as we plan to make decisions for those who work and live in this beloved county of Clermont that we call home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And now to officially start our meeting, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have one of our elected officials here this morning. Jeannie Zermley is here. She is our treasurer of Clermont County. Jeannie, would you lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order. We will start with the first thing on the agenda is the approval of regular session minutes of 9/25/2024. Board, you've had an opportunity to review these minutes. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Prior to moving on with the agenda to item C, we want to introduce some new employees this morning. First up is Clermont County Kennel Administrator, I should say Deputy Administrator of the county, Angie Livesay. Hi, Angie.
I am so excited to introduce Max and Nora, if you want to come up. They are our latest two kennel techs. They started on Monday. This is Max. This is Nora. We're very, very excited to have them. I think they will tell you that they jumped right in there. This morning I checked on them and they were back feeding the dogs. So they're getting right in there. I really appreciate that. They both have incredible attitudes, very cheerful presence. And most importantly, they really love dogs. So they're in the right place.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Stick around because they'll want to take a picture with all the new employees. Next up is Human Resources Department. Sandy Tahat, you have some employees you'd like to introduce?
Good morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Morning.
It is my pleasure to introduce Teresa Igo. She joined us on August 19th as our benefit coordinator. So she will be managing the county's health benefits moving forward after Yvonne retires. She has a bachelor's degree from NKU, and she is certified a human resource professional through the Society of Human Resource Management, or SHRM, as you know it. She has 14 years experience, not just in benefits, but human resources and some labor relations through past employment, including University of Cincinnati, Children's, TQL, and Prismian Group. She has been a great addition to our team and has already added great value, and we're really excited to have her on board.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome. Next up is the Water Resources Department, Lyle Bloom.
have two new employees to introduce. First is Devin Toth to my right here. Devin is an unlicensed operator one. He's working at our PUB water treatment plant, currently working second shift. Started a couple weeks ago, correct? All right. But he has a associate's degree from Cincinnati State and Technical and Community College. We're happy to have him on board. He has no previous water treatment experience, but we're going to train him, and he'll have 2 years to get his Class 1 operator's license. Next is Julie Kidwell, to my right behind me. Julie is an licensed operator one. She's working at we call them our North plants, which are our Ward's Corner, Arrowhead, and Miami Trails wastewater treatment plants. Julie actually worked with us for a couple years prior to this as an unlicensed operator. After she left the county, she continued to study and actually got her license and came back with her license now. So I'm very happy to have Julie back. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'd like to, that's it for new employee introductions. Anyone else? We'd like to get a picture. So if you all would come up front.
Want to stand up?
Yeah, we'll just stand up here. David's going to space you out there, you know.
Good. Act like I like
Come in a
him.
little bit.
And we'll go in 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Thank
Glad
you,
you're here.
everybody. Glad you're here.
Sandy, and since you were already up here, just let me ask you a question. Where are we as far as total employees for Clermont County, and how many openings do we have throughout the county? Do you know right off? Rough numbers? I know it wasn't long ago we had 100.
I can get that number for you later if you like.
Yeah, I'd love to. Love to know that. Thank you. We will move on with the agenda. The next item is item C, which is a proclamation. It's a designation of October 24th as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Clermont County. And I understand that accepting the proclamation is Stephanie Shue. How are you?
Good, are you?
Proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Clermont County. Whereas violence against women and children continues to be a more prevalent social problem, and whereas the problem of domestic violence is not confined to any group of people, but crosses all economic, racial, and social barriers, and whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humility through the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, physiological, and economic control or abuse. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting women and their children and society as a whole. Whereas it is survivors of domestic violence themselves who have been at the forefront of the efforts to bring peace and equity to home. And whereas it is fitting to set aside a special time to bring this issue to the attention of all Clermont County citizens so they can become better informed and involved in programs to eliminate this epidemic from our society, and also let families know that they are not alone and there is help and support available for them. Whereas the YWCA Greater Cincinnati is joining forces with victim service programs, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout Clermont County and across the state of Ohio to observe Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Therefore, we, the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim October 24th as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Clermont County. And it's signed by myself, Claire Corcoran, Vice President, and Bonnie Batchelor, Clermont County Commissioners. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today and accepting this proclamation.
Thank you so
For-
much for having us.
You bet. Thank you. And the podium is yours.
Thank you.
If you'd like to say a few words.
Well, first off, I would like to thank you all for your continued support of the YWCA. It's so important to us, to be here, and you have us every year, and we really appreciate that. And I'm like, what do I want them to know when I come with stats sometimes, but I think the thing I want you to know is that the YWCA Greater Cincinnati Eastern area has been at the forefront. House of Peace has been where it's at right now since 1990. And before that, we were a different area since 1981. That's huge. So we have been a leading domestic violence social service agency in Clermont County for a very long time, and we hope to continue to be. We have in house today our vice president, our president, and other staff in the YWCA. Most importantly, we have a survivor who has utilized the YWCA services, and I get goosebumps because this gal, I'll cry, she survived. Without the YWCA services in Clermont County, I don't know if her outcome would have been the same. So we're going to continue to partner with agencies in Clermont County, police departments, the prosecutor's office. We work hand in hand with them, Little Fork Family Advocacy Center, JFS, many others, and the community at large. So we're going to continue to be here in Clermont County. We're going to continue to be the leading agency in Clermont County to help combat domestic violence. So thank you for having us, and we'll be back next year, and we'll be here for a long time. So thank you. And Jennifer, thank you for coming here and standing up for every survivor.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Thanks for your work.
Take a picture with you.
Absolutely.
Come on down.
Absolutely. You trying to keep the purple together?
Birds and feathers flock together.
It's all about purple. Okay, I'll be there.
We'll go in 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1.
Uh-oh.
And 3, 2, 1.
Oh, come on.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
being here. Thank you.
You, hi, Gail Foley. Please send your report to me yearly. Okay, I haven't seen it. Just put report for, yeah, okay, yes.
I'll talk to Joanna. We'll get
Thank
this
you.
right away.
I appreciate it. Gail, thank you. No problem.
We will move on to the agenda. Item number D, we have, is John Gomez here yet? Yes,
Yes.
John, good to see you. John Gomez, the Southwest Regional Public Affairs Liaison for the Ohio Treasurer Robert Sprague. Review of new programs offered by the Ohio Treasurer. Glad you're here today.
Yeah,
I understand you were running a little late, but
yeah,
you got here on time.
yeah. I went to park and they were working out front too, so that had another couple minutes circling the block and everything too. So usually how it goes when you're running late, right? So, John Gomez, like I said, Treasurer of State's office. Wanted to give you an update on all the different things we have going on in the office. So first thing, Star Ohio, you'll see that up there on the screen. Star Ohio is essentially a mutual fund we run for local governments, doing very, very well these days. The stat they always like us to bring up about that is that we've surpassed $1 billion in interest generated for local governments across the state. So it's done super well, and it's a program that not only is the county able to invest in, I believe the county does invest in. Perfect. There we go. But it's something that any political subdivision is able to invest in. So from county down to school board, library board, kind of anybody, as long as your political subdivision is able to participate in Star Ohio. So we always encourage people to take a look at that as an investment option for their public dollars. The second program I always like to bring up is OMAP, the Ohio Market Access Program. So OMAP is an interesting one. It's not a very exciting one necessarily, but essentially what this does, it allows governments when they're taking out a bond project or doing a bond project to utilize the state's credit rating. And the state, under Treasurer Sprague, we now have the highest credit rating possible. We have AAA plus and AAA-M. So it's a great program to save some money on interest. And that's kind of been the general theme of the Treasurer's office. help you save some money on interest. And as interest rates have gone up, programs have gotten a lot more popular. So OMAP is certainly one of those. We just sent out a press release this morning as I saw it as I was walking in. Another village partook in OMAP. They saved about $13,000 in interest on one of their infrastructure projects. But we've seen savings as low as $5,000 for a small village, all the way up to like $130,000, $140,000 for larger cities. So the county is able to participate that if there's any bond projects that you plan on doing. I always like to bring that up as well. Those are two of the government side programs. Those are less exciting for people generally, but as I put it on the consumer side of things, that's where we have a lot more fun stuff. So our biggest program and our newest program is Ohio Homebuyer Plus. We launched that back in January of 2024, so about 9 months ago now. And when we launched it, we had 0 accounts across the state. Right now, we're closing on 20,000. So we also started with 8 financial institutions signed up. We're now, I think by the end of the year, our estimate is we'll be at about 130 financial institutions across the state. And so what this program is it's an enhanced savings account for Ohioans looking to buy a house. So as long as you're 18 years old, at least 18 years old, and a resident of the state of Ohio, you're able to go into any participating financial institution and say, hey, I want to sign up for Ohio Homebuyer Plus. They'll give you whatever the savings rate is. We'll just say hypothetically 4%. Then you're going to get another 2.6% on top of that, tax-free, from the state treasurer's office. So that takes a 4% account up to 6.6 in that case. And not only are you getting that enhanced savings rate, but every dollar you contribute to that account is income tax deductible for your state income tax. So it's a great deal. 20,000 accounts in 9 months is a lot faster, honestly, than we were probably expecting. And we're the only state in the country with a program of this type, and certainly at this scale. I think Iowa's the only state that has something somewhat similar, and they've had 600 accounts in the lifetime of the program. So we're far outpacing them. Some of the other benefits of Homebuyer Plus, if you're not necessarily looking for buying a home, but you have a child or grandchild that is, you're able to contribute up to $5,000 every year to those accounts, income tax deductible for yourself. So when the saver has that account, they're able to grow it up to $100,000 over 5 years, and they have to use it for down payment or closing costs for a primary residence here in the state of Ohio. So this one was one we were very excited about. We got it through in the last state budget, and it's been one of the more exciting things to go out and talk about. Everyone loves it so far. So doing very well. Couple things I also like to mention about it. One, so there's obviously parents and family members who are able to contribute, but employers are also able to contribute to these accounts for their employees. So we view that as a very good tool for recruitment. Right now, it's a pre-tax benefit. That may be something we go look at in the future. But it's, we think it's a pretty compelling thing to add to your pitch when you're trying to hire someone and say, hey, we'll help you buy a house. Especially these days, it's not as easy as it once was. So there's that. There is also an upcoming change to it, hopefully soon. When we created this program, the language of the bill was that it is for Ohio residents. Well, that we didn't intend it to exclude a certain group of people, but that excluded our active duty military who were stationed here in Ohio, because technically they don't have to be a resident of the state to be, stationed in Ohio. And I always use the example. I have a friend who lives in downtown Dayton. He's lived there for 4 or 5 years now. He's at Wright Pat. He was deployed here. Technically, at no point has he ever been a resident of the state, even though he's lived here for 4 or 5 years. He's actually been a resident of Texas this whole time, so doesn't pay an income tax. So smart. But we have a bill in the General Assembly to clarify that active duty military are eligible to participate in the program. I know State Senator Terry Johnson is one of the main sponsors of that bill, and it passed through the Senate unanimously. Right now it's somewhere in the House, so we'll see kind of where that moves when they come back, probably later this month or after the election. So that's going to be one of the big changes coming to Homebuyer Plus soon, so we're excited for that. Next, I'll mention our stable account program. So October is Disability Employment Awareness Month, and stable kind of fits into that perfectly. So stable accounts are for individuals with disabilities. Right now, if you're on Medicare or Social Security, you're only allowed to have about $2,000 in assets before you start losing some of those public benefits. Stable accounts are a legal way around that. So with a stable account, you're able to save up to $31,000 a year without losing any of those public benefits. And that's broken down into two parts. It's $18,000 as a base, and then another $13,000 or 13 and change if that individual is working and has a job. So this is a program that is one of the more fulfilling ones to talk about. So really, stable accounts they were created to give individuals with disabilities the ability to have independence and financial independence without losing the benefits that so many of them depend on, like Medicare and Social Security. So when Treasurer Sprague took over in 2019, I think there were about 3,500 stable accounts total. Right now, we're closing in on 45,000. So it's grown tremendously as people learned about it. It's been a great tool for so many families. And one of the other exciting developments with stable accounts, well, there's two things. One, here in the state, we have started a new initiative where there's an initial $25 minimum deposit to open up one of these accounts. If you're an Ohio resident opening up a stable account, you're now going to get that $25 back. So it is essentially free to open up a stable account. So, and that's something we're going to, our goal is to fund that in perpetuity. Another one of the developments since Treasurer Sprague took over, we've drastically decreased the fees on the accounts. So when I think Treasurer Sprague took over, it was probably a little over $50 a year. I think $45 to $50 a year in annual fees on the account. Today we're down to $15, and we're working on getting that even lower and hopefully down to zero here soon. So there's that. And right now, to open up a stable account, the disability had to begin or onset before the age of 26. So that mainly encapsulates a lot of people with developmental disabilities and things like that. One of the biggest changes in the program's history will be in 2026, that age requirement will go up to 46. So we anticipate that bringing a lot of veterans to the program who were, injured in combat or, people who were hurt on the job and things like that. So that's going to be a big expansion of the program coming January 1, 2026. So we're looking forward to that development as well. Another program, I'm not sure if I sent the link to this, but is our AgLink program. And I always like to bring up AgLink. So it should be under Ohioans and small business, under who we serve. But AgLink is one of our link deposit programs. And how it works is it's for farmers and those in the agricultural business. One of the big problems, obviously, that everyone's dealing with, but especially farmers, is heightened interest rates as we've had. So AgLink allows farmers to get between 2.5% and 3% off their interest rates on any of their operating loans up to $500,000. So this is a program that is, along with Homebuyer Plus, probably our most popular program across the state. In 2022, AgLink helped save farmers about $3 million in interest across the state of Ohio. That was a record year. 2023, we had another record year with $14 million in interest saved across the state. This year, as of August, we're already at $9 million. So it's grown very. So it was created in the 80s and then kind of died off as interest rates went down. And, I remember being at the Farm Science Review up in Madison County last year, and we had a couple banks come up to us and say, yeah, we used AgLink, 20, 30 years ago. Haven't really used it since. People are asking about it, so now we need to relearn how to use it. So it's grown in popularity, and especially with all the drought across Ohio, especially here in the southern part of the state, we always like to talk about AgLink as an important tool to help farmers save some money. I had a farmer tell me, he goes, every year we say we don't make money, but this year we're really not going to make money. So AgLink is an important tool out of our office to help anyone. And it's not necessarily just for farmers. It's anyone in the agriculture sector. So that goes from equipment shops, feed shop, to someone selling livestock and, all those sort of things. So there's that. And the other program that was up there earlier is CPIM, the Center for Public Investment Management. That I'd just like to bring up, that provides training for local governments on all sorts of different fiscal matters. And, it can be as simple as, what do you do when someone walks into your office with cash, all the way up to how do we set up a JED, TIF, new community authority, and all that sort of stuff. We're having a conference on that at the end of the month up in Columbus. And I would just like to bring that up I think the focus again is going to be on economic development, how to get ready for those big projects coming in, because we still have plenty of spaces here in Ohio for some of those big projects. And the last thing we want to see is someone miss out on something transformational like that because, you know, the finances didn't work out or they didn't have the resources to get those things done. So that I think kind of covers everything we have going on now. We will have at least one new program next year. It'll be called Buckeye Business Advantage. And that's going to be kind of like AgLink, actually. Will help small businesses get an interest rate reduction on some of their loans. The specifics of that we're waiting on. We're waiting on figuring out some of those things. So once we have specifics on that, I'm sure I'll be back here to give you guys an update on that. But that'll be out sometime next year. So yeah, I think that kind of covers the wide span of things we do in the treasurer's office. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any more?
No, thank you for coming.
John, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
here today.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
Treasurer Zermley, any comments? I mean,
The Start Ohio Fund, and it's done very well for the county.
Glad to hear that. Very glad to hear
so if you wouldn't mind, we'll take a picture here with
Yeah,
you and,
sure.
and Jeannie. Jean?
Picture taking day, Gail.
Three, two, one. One more. Three, two.
Thank you. Yeah, we said that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Down here, next thing, so, okay.
Thank you, John.
Next up, we have a presentation from Angie Livesay and Wade Grabowski, Deputy Assistant County Administrator and Director of Facilities Management. Respectfully, animal shelter updates.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Commissioners, today I'm here to talk to you along with Mr. Grabowski, our Facilities Maintenance Director, about the upgrades that have been made since the county took the facility over in 2021. So the first slide, and I was not here for all of this, which is why I have my backup here, who was and oversaw a lot of this work. So 2021, there were many, many issues that the county immediately remedied. Replacement of HVAC units, concrete asphalt repairs, the outdoor kennel installation and excavation. I'm told that the floors were pretty rough, so those floors were repaired. Parking lot was paved. The entire facility needed painting, from my understanding. Removal of a pre-digester for sewer system, and Wade can talk a little bit more about that. That's out of my league. But then also our facilities department did this, but there was an extermination of over 140 mice from the building. Anything that you want to weigh in on all of those things?
Just with the cooperation of other departments in the county, like water and sewer, Lyle, we discovered that the pre-digester we had for the cleanup in the kennels was not required any longer. So we were able to remove that, which saved the energy cost. Along with that, there was the addition of natural gas in the area. So we got rid of the propane, which was a buried underground tank, and we added the natural gas to the building.
So my rough math shows me that we spent about $300,000 during the takeover to spruce up the building before we accepted dogs back in. So some of the upgrades that have happened since, and this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but some of the things that I'm aware of, the concrete in the outdoor kennels, I think we needed some repairs there. The dogs, I understand, are very smart and figure their way out of any sort of concrete situation. So we repair that. We had duct cleaning last year. Since I've been there, we've had round 1 of kennel repairs. That is ongoing. I'm working on round 2. Again, the dogs figure out ways to damage the kennels, so we'll be repairing those again. As everyone is aware, we have the outdoor kennel project underway. The architectural services contract has been signed. I expect that project to move forward quickly. And then finally, the washer, dryer, dishwasher, the architectural engineering services contract for that has also been signed as of last week. So that project will also get going quickly. A couple other non-facility things, but to keep in mind, we also had contracts with behavior providers in 2022 and 2023. I am open to doing that again. I've reached out to people. People can contact me, and we'd be happy to get that service underway as well. There are some dogs that absolutely need that training. And then we also, our dog wardens are members of the Ohio Dog Warden Association for networking, training, that kind of thing.
Angie, before you leave off of that, there's been a lot of conversation and discussion about the outdoor kennel upgrades and about the washer dryer upgrade. And obviously it took way too long, and we all agree with that, but just kind of expound on that a little bit. Obviously somewhere in here, there was a $60,000 donation that was given to the kennels. And that's to be used for that particular upgrade. These upgrades require a modification to the existing kennel. And Wade, if you would expound on that a little bit, why we obviously, it's not like doing a private upgrade when you're making a modification to an existing government building. That is considered under the Ohio Revised Code and requires a full architectural package and a full bid package. So could you just talk about that for a second?
Along with those items, Commissioner, the issues that we have there is when a building is built, it has so much availability of power, utilities, and things like that. So where the recommended, for example, the recommended project on the fencing, you have utilities that were there. Utilities that were there when we built the training facility next door for the sheriff, and utilities that were existing. So that all has to be taken into consideration. You don't want to put a permanent structure on top of those utilities, because if they have to be worked on, then you're tearing up something that you did. So that was one of the things. On the inside, you only have so much power that's in the building. With the necessary upgrades, even though you put LED lighting in, the commissioners did, they authorized LED lighting years past, that's not enough to save the energy for the high-powered juice that's needed, if you will, for the equipment that's being added. It can be done, but those things all take engineering and mechanical abilities and the work of the architectural firm. So that's why it's, in our opinion, taking a little bit longer than we would have liked it to.
Mm-hmm. And this would be a modification to a public building. That's
correct.
That's what that's considered.
That
So
is correct.
not only a full architectural package, but also review by our prosecutor's office and the whole nine, and then going out and getting public bids. Talk about, just for a second, just so everybody has the right information, the $60,000 that was given. My understanding, and I've seen it on the books, when $60,000 is given by a donor, that money is basically put in a separate account, and it is restricted money for these funds. When these upgrades are actually made, that money will be used to pay for these items.
Correct.
For
Yes,
what?
that money can only be used for the items specified in the letter that we received, which is also on file.
So $60,000 has never been taken. It's never been stolen. It's never been misappropriated. $60,000 is right in that account for this purpose, and has been from the beginning when it was given.
Correct. And I will tell you, as a person that's there every day, I can't wait to spend it. I cannot wait to get these things underway. If there was a way that we could have done this more quickly, would have, but we can't. We have to follow a process, even if it's frustrating. So yeah, we're all on the same page on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Continue, please.
So one of the most notable things that I think this group has done is we've added a lot of staff openings here. So I believe we had around 9 positions, and this was the first table of organization that I could see when the county had taken it over. And I believe at that time we were adding that part-time vet tech. So as you can see, we've definitely expanded. We have many, many more openings for kennel attendants, both full and part-time. We have a full-time vet tech. We have a full-time vet tech assistant. We have an additional warden. We have 3 reception openings there. So as well as what I think some of the really important things, we have the kennel, the addition of the kennel administrator position, which we know is still vacant, and then the kennel supervisor overseeing the kennel attendants. So I think we've definitely figured out what we need. We just need to get them all filled, of course.
And before coming off of that table of organization, talk about the trustees and how they have come over to help.
Yes. So right now, we have a group of trustees coming in. They were there this morning. So they're there around 8 to 10:30, 11. And they do kind of our base clean for the day. So they go through, and any dogs that have made messes over the night our staff go through, feed the dogs, get the dogs outside. Trustee group comes in right behind them and cleans up all the messes. And they're fantastic. The staff members that were here a few minutes ago, they're like, those trustees are amazing. And they are. I mean, they're a machine back there. They know what they're doing. So that has been huge. I think that ultimately when we get fully staffed, that'll take a little bit of the burden off of our kennel attendants. They'll get to do some of the more fun things, more of the dog enrichment, not just taking care of the messes and the base level that we have to provide. So that's been a huge addition. Yeah.
And they're there how many days?
Right now they're there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but they were also there Saturday and Sunday over the weekend. We're still figuring out the future schedule, but I know that they were also there over the weekend, which again was incredibly helpful.
And they have been available on call when the help is needed.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks to the sheriff's office.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Yep. So 2024. So as you all know, you put me down there. So I am there just about full time. I come to this meeting. I come to a few meetings here and there in this building, but mostly I am there. So I've seen a lot of this up close and personal. So highlight is the trustee crew cleaning. So that is definitely something I wanted to touch on. As I learn of the different things that are happening at the shelter, I make you all aware. And you all, along with the sheriff, were able to get the trustee crew cleaning program, which is enormous for us. Other things that I've seen, so quickly purchased some new protective equipment and supplies for the kennel staff, along with providing some additional safety training. That crew back there does really, really hard work. And quickly to me, I realized that if they had some new hoses, they could get things done a little easier for them, more efficiently. Those are all really small investments, and I think that they've really helped them. We had the group, the volunteer group provide some sunshades for our back play area. They provided those. Our facilities maintenance team obtained the permits and got those installed for us, and that's great. It adds some shade outside for the dogs when they're out back. We had an air quality test performed. The most notable finding was that we had some extra humidity in our isolation room, which makes sense. The humidity is related to us cleaning because we're always spraying it out. So that's solved with a dehumidifier. That'll be easy. Purchase and installation of a combined washer and dryer unit. Again, I know it's been a hot topic about the washer and dryer. As sort of our Band-Aid solution until we get the bigger units installed, we already had a washer and dryer set there, and then now we have the washer and dryer combination. So really, we're keeping up with laundry. The new items will be very helpful, but that's not as dire as it once was. Recently, we reestablished the Grant Vocational Students Program. So we have a student in the building every Tuesday and Thursday. These are in the vet tech program at Grant. So we're just getting started with them, but they will be able to do a lot of different things for us. They'll be able to do dog baths, walks, really anything we need them to. So that's really exciting. I'm excited to have that going again. So I know there's been some talk about our medical bills. As of yesterday, and you all haven't approved paying the bills for today yet, so I'm going to guess this number has changed. But as of yesterday, we had spent around $103,000 on vet bills to date so far. And finally, throughout all of this, we've maintained our no-kill shelter status, which we're all very proud of. And it has not been an easy year. We have lost some staff, so I'm really, really proud of the staff that have been working very, very hard to make our shelter the best it can be.
And also our volunteers,
And the volunteers.
which you've worked one-on-one, trying to get everybody coordinated and get the washer and dryer in. I remember that one. Anyway, Wade, little description on what it was really looked like when we walked in there when we took it over. I remember that day, couldn't even walk on the floor, and today I could not believe how clean it was today.
The transition was a difficult one. As far as the housekeeping, it was less to be desired at the old group when the county took it over, but it wasn't that long afterwards that it was turned around and became a respectful place to be at. So there were a lot of issues that we dealt with.
Including the mice and the ceiling tiles that had to be all taken out. And
yeah, several things that were there.
Right.
But we're glad that it's turning around.
I say thank you for all your work, and Andrew, you too,
Well,
and
thank you.
all the
Folks that
workers
work for you.
and the volunteers.
And
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Angie, let's stress again, it's been said that we do not have a veterinarian up there. How many do we work with throughout the county?
We have about 6 that we regularly send dogs to. We have 3 standing appointments days of appointments each week where we can get a number of dogs in for spay, neuter, rabies, anything else, rabies vaccine, anything else that comes up.
And just before you go, talk about, I mean, we all see social media. We understand that. We see snapshots of conditions at the shelter at any particular given time. And just talk about that. I mean, there are times, and I try to tell folks, there are times when the shelter is messy. There are times when the shelter is very, very clean. And throughout the day, that changes. People do spot cleaning and that kind of things. Obviously, there was a social media post not too long ago that showed water in beds of outside kennels where dogs had been moved to. Talk about this past weekend and when those pictures were taken and actually what was going on and the kind of stress that the shelter was under. Just talk about that.
So I think a lot of people know we had a big number of dogs come in over the weekend. So
they may not know.
We had a lot of dogs come in over the weekend.
It was over a hoarding case in the county.
So we had I came in on Saturday. We had the crew of inmates there, which were very helpful. We had Alex, the kennel tech that was there. We had many volunteers. It was really all hands on deck, taking care of the dogs that we had. You always have to keep in mind, we may have cleaned 29 kennels. That doesn't mean we've gotten to the 30th one. It's a process, and not everything can miraculously be cleaned as soon as we walk in the door. So there are times where there are dirty kennels and we need to clean them, and we will. But I think sometimes those pictures are taken at times where we haven't gotten there yet, and that's accurate. My request would be that people would help us clean rather than showing us this really messy kennel. That would be very helpful. As far as the rain, we do have to move dogs to get their kennels clean. So, most of the kennels have a little bit of a covering over them. We're working on improving all of our outdoor kennels, but we do have to get dogs out so that we can send them back to a clean spot. So all of this is a process. It is not always perfect. I walk back there several times a day. There are times I see a dog has made a mess, and then I see our staff respond. So to say that a dog is sitting in anything all day, I think is wrong.
But you don't normally have a hurricane coming through blowing the rain in.
Correct. We also had that. Yes. Yeah.
But let me just say, I was called over. I saw the videos of that house where those dogs came from. The condition they were living in that house could not even compare to some rain on a cot in those kennels. I cried. I sat there, watched that video and cried. The conditions that those dogs were living in. I got goosebumps.
And I was
it's not a first time with this person. I've dealt with it many times over the years of being a trustee. It was pitiful what those dogs were living in. I have to tell you, it was sad.
And I will say, one of my takeaways from that whole situation was our staff. It was all hands on deck. People came in on days off. People were dirty. It was hard work. We were all very wet, a little bit gross, but we got the dogs taken care of. So.
And, kudos to the volunteers. I mean, they respond when there's a condition like that. And let me make sure the numbers were right. We took on 38 canines, 2 cats, and they also had to remove
5 donkeys.
Was it 5 donkeys?
5 donkeys.
5
This is
donkeys.
in litigation, right?
Yeah.
So
You bet. Okay.
we should close that subject. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You bet.
Thank you, Beth.
We have reached public participation. If there is anyone that would like to participate during public participation, I will open that now. During this time, the board does not answer questions nor engage in debate. No member of the public may comment about a matter that is not within the purview of Clermont County's responsibilities. The commissioners are not expected to comment on matters brought to the board. Each speaker will speak once and be recognized by the board president for speaking. In accordance with the board's rules, you will be limited to 5 minutes. We are going to hold to that schedule of 5 minutes. Last week, we went way over time, and it pushed this board into the afternoon. So you will have 5 minutes. At that time, we will notify you your time is up, and we will go on to the next person. If there's anybody that would like to address the board. Mr. Hicks, please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Chris Hicks. I live at 444 Woodward Court, Cincinnati, Ohio. Thanks for letting me talk. This other presentation, it reminds me when I was a small child, I remember listening to Vietnam War updates on the news. And it's 3 years into running this shelter. And at some point, the propaganda that everything's great, everything's fixed, everything's going to be better, it has to end. I think this whole thing has become an embarrassment to our county. And it's an embarrassment to what should be Republican, efficient governmental leadership. You not only can't fix problems, you create problems that then you can't fix. There's been 2 shelter operators that get demonized regularly in these meetings, but the problems now are yours. The building has always been yours. If it was not properly maintained in the past, that was on you. The failure since taking it over is worse, but the failure now is worse than anything. It's the failure to be able to admit that you made a mistake and need to move the shelter back towards a humane society control. When you cannot make that admission and you continue on this path of a big government-run shelter, you're not ultimately ever going to solve the problem, and we're going to be condemned to forever listen these meetings being monopolized by the animal shelter. No other commissioners in Southwest Ohio, or probably the whole state, spend as much time in meetings on animal shelters as you guys do. In any company, you would be gone. But in a crony Republican system that gives us mediocre and unethical behavior too often in offices, you stay here and you just keep explaining it away. That same system just recently endorsed Larry Householder campaign finance crooks, Alan Freeman and Gene Schmidt. Miss Zermele is sitting right here. The federal court just slapped her down for trying to weaponize the criminal justice system against me. Brian Shrive is back there. He tried to cover up for party official Greg Carson embezzling money from Clermont Senior Services. This is an embarrassment, and you are putting on display as Republican-endorsed officials the inefficiency, the unethicalness, and worst of all for you guys, the inability to solve problems. It's time to end this clown show that's one of your own making, and the shelter monopolizing these meetings. I want to say to everyone, this is not what Republican leaders should look like. Republican leaders should be efficient, small government, effective leaders. These people are arguing that the solution is government control over an animal shelter that no county does, that I'm aware of in the state. But I'd like to hear you talk about that, or in our region. This has got to end. It's an embarrassment to Republicans and Clermont Countyans. Trust me, though, the incompetence is pervasive in our government. The thing unique here is that there's animal lovers that pay attention to it. It's a lot worse when you look at other departments and other areas. And I wish that people would do that. And I wish that the media would do that to see what happens when government becomes inefficient and led by mediocre cronies at its head. I'm just one person fighting for better and truer Republican conservative leadership in our county. Today, I want to commit, just as me, that if animal lovers want to hand out at the polling locations on November 5th slate cards that say, leave Miss Batchelor and Mr. Painter's vote blank. Don't fill it in. To send a message, it's called an undervote, to send a message of this can't go on. This feeling of Republican entitlement that you can have crony people put in offices that they're not qualified for and show every week that they cannot solve problems that they create and just keep trying to explain it away. God, only imagine if half the money they have spent on the shelter had been offered to one of the private operators beforehand. Think of how much better it would be. You'd be able to also get a cat there. That is reprehensible what's been happening. It's reprehensible the ongoing excuses that are made by these people. Guys, you've had plenty of time. Last week, you interacted with the people. I appreciate that. This week, you're basically sending the signal you're going to not interact with people. But I want to ask you right now, I have 42 seconds left. I want to give each of you an opportunity, one by one, to commit right now to moving this shelter back to humane society control and out of the hands of government control. Ms. Corcoran, will you commit to move the shelter back to humane society control by putting it out to bid? Mr. Painter, will you commit to humane society control by putting the shelter out to bid?
Mr. Hicks, I have absolutely no problem with looking at or entertaining.
Not entertaining or looking at. That's a typical politician answer. I'm okay to look at it and entertain it, but I won't actually commit to anything.
I'm not.
Ms. Batchelor, will you commit to?
I think Mr. Painter is speaking.
I'm not here.
Trying to.
I'm not here to.
He's
argue.
taking my time, okay?
He took his time.
You took
It's
my-
not his time when I've been recognized. See, this is the kind of crony thing. I've been recognized, they take my time, and it's somehow my fault. This has got to stop. And I want to hear a commitment from you, Mr.
time
Painter,
is
right
up.
now.
No, you.
I want a commitment right now. Will
wouldn't
you
let
put the
me
shelter out to bid?
Your time is up. Please remove yourself from the podium.
My time is up. Please remove myself from the podium. This is what disastrous
Mr. Hicks,
leadership
you
looks
are-
like in
you
our
are
county.
Causing this meeting not to move forward.
Mr. Hicks, go sit down. That's the concern.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Stephanie Freeborn. I'm at 2517 State Route 222 in New Richmond. I am
Stephanie, you have 5 minutes.
I am a Clermont County resident. I wanted to talk to you today about something called criminal nonfeasance. Criminal nonfeasance is the intentional failure to perform a legal duty or act that results in harm to a person or property, and animals are considered property. I have the written official duties to the shelter that you are lawfully required to meet as stated in the Ohio County Commissioner's Handbook, and you have been and are willfully failing to meet many of the most primary duties. There is extensive evidence to prove that you have been and are willfully failing to meet those duties, and extensive evidence to prove that you have harmed and are harming people and animals by that. This meets the legal definition of criminal nonfeasance. I've been in contact with the sheriff, and I'll be meeting with the detective to open a criminal investigation. The three of you have been behaving like small children when you are public servants with lawful duties to meet. You do not just get to decide that you're not going to meet those lawful duties. This will be investigated. The evidence is overwhelming, and you will be held accountable. Two of the specific duties that are stated in the Clermont County Commissioner's Handbook are that you are to operate with consideration and care by qualified and trained staff. That is not happening, and that has never been happening. Another duty that you are lawfully required to meet is to provide proper care to these animals. You are not providing proper care to these animals. It is on video evidence of commissioners' meetings of volunteers begging you to provide staffing, trained and qualified staff, proper care for the animals, and you have willfully refused to do that. You are criminals, and we're going to see to it that you are held accountable.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll close public participation and we will, go ahead. Absolutely. Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Ann Noshang. I live on Hammond Drive in Amelia. So the first thing I wanted to say is I came here with the intention of sharing my concerns about the animal shelter. I think there are a lot of concerns. I think we'll all agree to that. Angie helped me with her recap and her update, which I've never seen before. I don't know if anybody else has, but I haven't. I am not currently a volunteer at the shelter because I have health issues and parent issues, things, whatever. But I've been following it very closely. I go down and visit every once in a while, donate, blah, blah, blah. But there are still some things that concern me, a lot of things. The first one being, I never ever see a timeline of how anything is going to get fixed. I hear early and soon, we're going to be working on these things quickly. But if there's a project, if you have a group that's working on a project, there should be a timeline of when things will get done. I know government's different than big business. I worked in big business for 1,000,000 years, but there should still be a timeline. The washer and dryer would be the most substantial or in-your-face kind of project that there should be a timeline. I mean, you go to this department, then you go to that department, then you go to that department, then you bid it out, blah, blah, blah. If we could hear or see about those, it would make a lot more sense to people to understand. But all I've ever heard is we're working on it. It takes a lot of time. That doesn't really solve anybody's problems. And all of the great things that Angie showed up there that have been happening are fantastic. But I'm thinking that went over 3.5 years. That wasn't just recently done. Those things have been going on for 3.5, 4 years. So it doesn't sound like a lot for me to be 3.5 to 4 years. I really want to talk about the $20,000 and the $60,000 because the $20,000 came from Purina, who I personally know, the plant manager out there. And on February 7th, 2022, you all received the $20,000 and said what you were going to do with it. There was a list of things, but it wasn't done. And I understand that somebody now has said it wasn't specified for that, but it was specified for that. You said it on February 7th, 2022, what you were going to do with it, but it wasn't done. That bothers me a lot. The other thing is the $60,000. That was 18 months ago. I mean, gosh, 18 months. That's a really long time, even for government, I would think. That doesn't make sense to me either. And you say the $60,000 was in an account. It wasn't, hidden under somebody's pillow or anything like that. And that's fine. But $60,000 is not a lot of money, but interest on that $60,000 would be significant. So where's that? Does that go to the dog shelter? Because it should. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's taken too long. It's just taken too long. There's no other answer to that. Something has to be done to speed these things up. And additional or more timely updates like the one that you provided would be fantastic for people if you could see it. The volunteers are very unhappy right now. I understand that. I am sick over it too. But maybe if you show them an update or a timeline, a project management scheme, they could understand it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I hadn't planned to speak, so I just want to share something.
No problem. Tell us who you are and
Mary
your
Moore,
address.
I live on 220 Broadway Street, Batavia. Giving a real quick history, I've been around dog shelters, oh my gosh, since my kids were little. They started at age 7. My one daughter actually worked at this shelter when it was with another group. And I volunteered, and so a lot of things. My question throughout that whole thing was not to put down anybody, but was, what are we doing to educate the public? Because when I volunteered there, we had so many dogs coming in, picked up. You call the people and you're like, hey, there's a tag. It's your dog. And they're like, well, we don't want to pay the money. We don't want them. Where in all of this are we attempting to educate the public, spay, neuter, in animal care, in how to choose a dog? Not sure if it's the job of the county, but now that you have the shelter, you certainly have a forum in which to do it. And coming from an education standpoint, that's where my brain goes. Obviously, you're going to have stupid people out there and you can't legislate stupid, but you can attempt to educate. So that was just my thought.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll go ahead and close public participation. We will move on with our agenda. Next up is item F, a consent agenda. Board, you've had the consent agenda early. You've had an opportunity to review it. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration?
None.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. We will move on now to the non-consent agenda. Starts on page 5 with item 9. Recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners adopt resolution number 124-24 to approve payments to vendors in the total amount of $5,694,794.95 as outlined in the BCC approval invoice report for checks dated October 2nd, 2024. BCC directed prepaid invoice reports and the procurement card transaction report is presented by the county auditor on September 30th, 2024, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes, and if I could just add,
Yeah, go ahead.
4 million of that, I believe, was for the road resurfacing.
Yes,
just so
ma'am.
People know.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, thank you. Item number 10.
Morning.
With the Department of Job and Family Services. Item number 10 is the recommendation to execute the service agreement between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and Clermont County Community Services located in Batavia, Ohio, for the provision of payroll processing services for the Comprehensive Case Management and Employment Program, the CCMEP program, administered by the Department of Job and Family Services, Ohio Means Jobs Division, for eligible temporary assistance for needy families, TANF Youth, in Clermont County, Ohio, at the rate specified for a total amount not to exceed $49,500. It's effective for the period of October the 1st of 24 through September 30th of 25, pursuant to the terms and conditions and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 10. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, thank you. Item number 11.
I'm doing this for Jessica.
Okay.
She couldn't be here today. This is a recommendation to award the bid and execute the public improvement agreement for the replacement of 5 generators located at Clermont County and Northern Kentucky Tower sites pursuant to the specifications to SECO Electrical Company Incorporated, located in Covington, Kentucky, for the lowest and best bid received on August 29th, 2024, at a total cost not to exceed $540,050 and funded by the American Rescue Plan Act in compliance with the terms and conditions in the agreement and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I have a second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 12. Morning.
I'm Michelle Snyder. I'm the county's records manager. Item 12 is a recommendation to acknowledge the Ohio Historical Records Advisory Board Professional Development Scholarship application submitted by the Office of Management and Budget Records Management Division and awarded by the Ohio Historical Records Advisory Board out of Columbus, Ohio, for reimbursement contribution in the amount of $300 to attend the National Conference of the Association of Records Managers and Administrators, which was previously approved on May 29th of this year with no local match required.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12. Do I have a motion for approval?
In my motion for approval, are we going through the,
Okay, it should be 2024.
okay, thank you for that. Okay.
What's the correction?
2024.
The date was incorrect on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Then I make that motion with that correction.
With that correction. It's
Yes.
been moved.
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion?
No.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Item number 13.
Item 13 is a recommendation to accept the following grant of permanent sewer easements with rights of reentry for repair and replacement to be granted and conveyed to Clermont County by the grantors as outlined below for utility purposes. And this is for the Arrowhead Wastewater Treatment Plant Elimination Project located in Miami Township, and to authorize the county auditor to remit payment as compensation for the permanent easement and right-of-way granted. And these are the final 2 easements that we need to be able to construct the project. Both of them combined total to the acreage just under 1.4 acres of land and easement.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 14.
14 is a recommendation to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, or in his absence, any other member of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute a letter of intent to renew the contract with Clermont Senior Services Incorporated for the continuation of the provision of services or facilities to the senior citizens of Clermont County during calendar year 2025,
pursuant to and in compliance with Section 1 of the Contract for Senior Services ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on November 3rd, 2021, which would represent the third of 4 available one-year renewal options.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor? Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 15. Hi, Emily.
Planning Board. I have a recommendation to resolve to approve and authorize changes in the annual appropriation resolution number 181-23. And this is for calendar year 2024. These are 2 supplementals for the recorder supplemental fund, and it is for regular salaries, $10,850, and for fringe benefits, $2,330.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Been moved and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thanks, Emily. We have come to item number H. Are there any additions to the agenda at this time?
No.
None?
None this time.
Okay. Then we will move to item I. I'm requesting an executive session pursuant to section 121.22, G1 and G3 of the Ohio Revised Code to first consider the employment or compensation of a public employee or more public employees, and second, to confer with the attorney for the board concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, we will move to executive session. We will return and we will conduct further business. Thank you. right. We have returned from executive session. There were no decisions made and no actions taken. We will move on with the agenda. Additions to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Yes, Commissioner, we have two additions to the agenda.
Okay.
One is a settlement agreement and release of funds, and the second is the payment of the settlement for a case in a Commons Police Course.
So first, I would ask for a motion to add these two items to the agenda. Board, do I have a motion to add?
I'll make the motion to add.
Okay.
Second?
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. The two have been added to the agenda, so we will go with the first one. Brian Schreiber is here to walk us through these. So Brian, by all means.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The first is a recommendation from the prosecuting attorney, Mark J. Tacalvi, to authorize Commissioner David Painter to execute a final settlement agreement and release on behalf of the Clermont County Board of County Commissioners for Clermont County Common Pleas case number 2023 CVH 575. That's the Clermont County Board of Commissioners v. Shannon K. Hogan et al., pursuant to the terms set forth therein. This is the project. This was a takings project as part of the Cook Road Bridge replacement. The work, I think, is fully completed now, actually. The bridge is reopened. This was some easements we had to acquire. So we had filed the taking suit, actually went through a mediation. It initially failed at mediation, but in fact, we kind of ended up back where the mediator had told us to go. Anyway, so Judge Walker actually was our mediator in that case.
Well, Board, you've heard you've heard it explained as far as the final settlement agreement and release on behalf of Clermont County in Common Pleas case 2023 CVH 575. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. And the second one.
The second one is related to the same issue. So the settlement agreement calls for a payment totaling $70,000. Of that, $3,337 is already on deposit with the clerk of courts as part of the filing of the case. The remaining $66,663 would be paid out of the monies that were already appropriated for the project. The project came in about $100,000 to $110,000 under budget, so the money for these easements is well within the money that's already been appropriated. So this would authorize the payment of the check and the release of the funds. So going to read the formality of it. This is a recommendation of prosecuting attorney Mark J. Tacalvi for the Board of County Commissioners to authorize payment of $66,663 and to authorize the release of $3,337 on deposit with the Clermont County Clerk, Common Pleas Clerk of Court in accordance with the settlement agreement in the matter of Clermont County Common Pleas case number 2023 CVH 575, Clermont County Board of Commissioners v. Shannon K. Hogan et al., to be paid from the Cook Road Bridge Replacement Project Fund and to direct the Clermont County Auditor to issue payment of the said settlement.
Board, you've heard the reading of the settlement agreement and the payment authorization for this particular case. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran? Yes. Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other additions to come before the board today?
No, Commissioner.
Okay, then we will move to item J. Item J is county staff elected official discussions, and Sandy Tahat from Human Resources is here to review a new personnel policy, chapter number 3.
Good afternoon. So as stated today, I'm going to give you a general overview of changes made to Chapter 3 of the Personnel Policy Manual. I have sent each commissioner individually the full policy red line so you can see everything. So today I'm just going to highlight the areas of more notable areas, if you will. As a reminder, as doing these updates, we are trying to simplify language, remove the legalese, put in hyperlinks where we can. Chapter 3 has 10 different sections that all surround health and safety for our employees. It includes areas such as medical exams, disability accommodations, our workplace safety, drug and alcohol testing in those areas. So starting off on medical exams, when we have an applicant or an employee undergo an exam to determine whether they can perform essential functions of the job, we have made sure and included that includes with or without an accommodation, which is what we are required under the ADA. It applies to both applicants and employees, and noted that employees or applicants are not required to tell us whether they have a disability, but need to if they are going to request an accommodation. On workplace-related illness injuries, we have language in there. The board has a wage continuation policy to where if an employee is injured on the job, they can opt to continue wages with us or file for wages under the Bureau. We've added language that should they use any paid leave other than that wage continuation, they cannot buy back that paid leave time, and they cannot simultaneously receive pay from the employer and the Bureau. Driving record checks for those whose jobs require as an essential function for them to drive. We have in there that they have to maintain that valid driver's license and an acceptable record, and we include language in there of what is not acceptable. One of that is there a requirement for them to report convictions for moving violations. We audited that also includes uncontested citations. Technicality there that got overlooked. Exposures to contagious disease. We have in there that if the exposure poses a real and imminent threat to either the coworkers or the public, we added an option in addition to that employee either taking paid sick leave or potentially being reassigned to limit that risk, that they may have the option of at the employer's discretion to work remotely if that's a possibility for what they do, just to limit that. We also included language regarding an employee's potential refusal to work with or to serve a member of the public that they think may be exposed in this kind of surface during COVID, as an example, that if it does not pose a real or imminent risk, that any decision on how to handle that will be based on current scientific medical evidence and not someone's fear, if you will. And for that, we refer to like CDC. There's been occasion I've called our health commissioner about, a potential exposure and how to handle that, and that's what that would be based on. On both the drug-free workplace and our drug and alcohol testing, we added language that illegal use is the illegal use of prescription drugs or medical and recreational marijuana, now that has come surf. And it includes compounds such as CBD oils that contain THC levels sufficient enough to trigger a positive result. And also that refusal to test is subject to discharge. Last, I will cover the HIPAA section. That looks like the biggest edits, but really all we did, it's all that statutory detail. It got into legal weeds that really wasn't necessary. So we greatly just reduced that to say the board will comply as required by law, in summary. And lastly, on certification of safety sensitive positions, we have an explanation of what that may include. We added fuel handling in that to make sure that role got captured as well. And that's pretty much the summaries. So if the board has, as you look through those policies, if you haven't had the opportunity, because I think I got those to you a little bit late, if you have any thoughts, questions, or anything that you see, please let me know. Otherwise, I will start working on bringing chapter 4 to you. And that one I will probably break up a little bit more because it covers a lot of topics I probably will need some input on. Okay.
Sandy, before you move on to chapter 4, I had, unfortunately, I read it all last night. Thank you for that. But under the injury at the workplace, I saw that other than a designee who would be filling out the forms and completing and returning them, the duty to report at the end of the business day. But my question was, there's a deadline for that employee to do it, but there was no written deadline for that manager to submit it through to HR. It left it at their discretion or when they can. And I
said, yeah, as soon as possible or something.
Yeah, and that's right. And I was like, why? I think if we're going to we restrict somebody, then I think that manager should be under the timeline also, because that gets that clock ticking, as to what type of pay they're going to have. So that would be my only correction there. And then the other thing was under the driver's license. I know it said convicted, but what about those that are pending? Do they still have to? You get a ticket and you haven't gone to court yet, but are they still then required to do that, to report, to say, hey?
With a lot of our, even like our background checks and
Yeah.
that we go by conviction, not charge.
Okay.
And
Right.
that's kind of why we put the uncontested in there, because
Yeah.
it's not really it's, you just plead no contest, and that's kind
Okay.
of the same, but we primarily work off conviction, if you will.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for all that. That was a lovely reading. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. And next, we have Chris McClintock, Director of Clermont County Economic Development Building Inspection Division, and he's going to talk about Brown County building inspections. Chris,
Mr.
podium's yours. Thanks for coming today.
So as you're aware, our building inspection division currently performs commercial industrial permitting and inspections for Brown County through a contract that we have. So we have provided these services under contract for approximately 20 years. I think it goes back to like 2020 is when or I'm sorry, 2000 is when we started these contracts. So for over 20 years, Brown County currently performs their own residential permitting and inspection process. So we only handle the commercial industrial side of these. So for many years, our building inspection division has been able to work and perform these inspections along with our own inspections without any issues or problems. However, as every industry and sector is feeling this, we are dealing with workforce issues. The county and building inspection division are feeling the same workforce issues that every sector in the country is facing right now. It's hard to retain and attract talent. So we're also experiencing, as you know, from the article that was in the Business Courier a couple Fridays ago, unprecedented growth in the county. So along with that, and the fact that we seem to be having issues retaining and attracting employees, it's becoming an issue for us to continue to provide these services to Brown County when we're not able to keep up at this point with current inspections in Clermont County. So as much as we'd love to continue that, there's some issues that we're starting to feel that. So I'm here today to seek your guidance to address the situation. We've reviewed the contract we currently have with Brown County. We reviewed statistics, just some ones I'll throw out there. Last year, we did approximately 200 inspections and issued permit. I'm sorry, we issued 200 permits, 197. There could be multiple inspections with that. And the issue we run into there is there's a lot of window time, meaning we could be driving a half hour to an hour just to get to one of those spots, depending on where it's at. Now, Mount Orab and Georgetown are where most of them are, but still, that's taking an inspector. I talked to Bruce Crace, our chief building official, probably an equivalent to 2 to 3 days out of the week. One inspector is in Brown County. So if we could free that person up to be back in the county, that would almost, give us the equivalent of another full-time inspector back in the county. So in a couple things, in reviewing the contract, we would need to, we don't have to have a reason, but we would need to notify Brown County in writing. And we also have to contact the Ohio Board of Building Standards because they want to make sure that there's somebody doing inspections in Brown County and doing the permitting process. So staff's recommendation would be to meet with the county commissioners of Brown County, talk to them. Our goal is not to leave them in a lurch, not to just say, hey, you've got till next week and we're going to quit doing inspections for you, but to work through a smooth transition so that they would have time to adequately replace our services within reason. And, I talked with Bruce, again, our chief building official. We're willing to work with them to transfer information. We still have cases. We'd have to kind of figure out when that sunset is of when we're going to stop taking the applications and when it goes over there. Because once we kind of intake that, we have to finish that process out. So there'll be a time frame, and staff would work all that out. But again, with that information, I'm looking for some guidance for what the board would like to do moving forward with this.
What's actually the logistics of that contract? In other words, if I'm in Brown County and I'm going to build a commercial facility up there, how do I even notify Clermont County inspectors? Do I have to come down to our permit central?
Correct. Well, we now have a lot of online ability, or
Right.
we call
Right.
it
But to like
digital.
obtain plans and those
Correct.
kind of things, I mean, I have to come all the way down here to Clermont County and turn in all my information, and then those plan review. My second thing would be, how lucrative is that contract? What does the contract say that we get paid and reimbursed for? What is that?
Sure. So Brown County doesn't contractually pay us anything. We receive the fees from the permits and the inspections. I think in 2023, we brought in roughly $70,000 in permit fees. Quite frankly, that may come close, but probably not to a total compensation of one of the inspectors. Not to mention the permit specialists that review things. So, yeah, it's at this point, it's not necessarily covering the costs.
It's our vehicle too.
Yeah, correct. Our vehicle, our
it's our
mileage, our
equipment.
gas,
And
equipment,
Chris,
wear and tear.
I'm sorry, Claire.
That's
And one of the other issues is people that complain that it takes us too long here. So with the growth of the county, we're going to need our people. So I think we need to, my personal opinion, we need to have the talk with Brown County and let them know, we have to take care of our own first.
And I think they would understand that,
I
because they're
think so.
they're feeling the growth as well.
They're growing.
So,
They're growing too, and I'm sure their inspection department, they would rather have those direct fees paid right to them now, especially in this growth market they're in. No question.
And with 32 being finished, it's only going to continue
Absolutely.
to grow that way.
If they pick that up and they pick up $70,000 in permits right there within their own county, I mean that's going to be a boost in the arm for them. No question.
and we've seen a 10% increase in the number of permits we've issued over the last four years since 2020. That's only going to continue to grow.
So Chris, can you go over the contract and see where we are with it, and sit down with Brown County and come back and give us a recommendation, try and work
Absolutely,
it
I
out
can do
together, and tell us what kind of a timeline we're looking at.
Okay, and that'll be the biggest negotiating point there is
Right.
if they want to do it in-house, that would take them some time, but there's also firms out there that will do that in the interim.
Okay.
IBI, for example, and other local
Give us a
contractors.
report back. Great.
I will do that.
But with us here, even though they're only covering the commercial there and their people are doing the residential,
Yes.
here our residential is going to explode.
Oh,
I mean, there's no question about that. It is becoming quite a gameful place, building residential houses.
yeah, we're looking at thousands
Right.
over the next couple of years. So,
Yeah. Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
that sounds good. I will follow up and report back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Any other staff or county elected official discussions? I will move on to member comments. Members, any comments about today's meeting? Anything you want to say?
Okay, so let me bring up a topic. Animal shelter.
Okay.
We've had week after week of people coming here and talking about how the animal shelter is run. I would just like to ask Commissioner Painter and Commissioner Corcoran, do you think it's time that we entertain the motion or the idea of putting it out there to see if there are any agencies who would like to talk to us about taking over the animal shelter? Just throwing it out there.
No, there's nothing wrong with that discussion at all. Commissioner Corcoran, any comments on that or path forward? I'd make these comments. I was here when we bid this shelter out, to Humane Society. I was commissioner at that time. Prior to that, my predecessor, Bob Proud, had negotiated a contract with a previous animal Humane Society prior to that. Sheltering animals as a county has always been difficult and has its challenges. And I totally understand, the need to take a look at what kind of services are available. One of the things I would talk about is obviously we've heard a lot of discussion from not only people of the community, but people from a previous animal shelter, employees and people that work there. One of the things there's a lot of concern for is the fact that our animal shelter is right across from a firing range. And I know the sheriff has done everything that they can do to curtail that kind of activity that goes on the firing range, and that's not all the time. But one of the things is a concern is that it doesn't matter if you bid this process out to a humane society. The complaints about the animal shelter and the humane society come squarely onto the shoulders of the commissioners because it's your subcontractor. And when they don't meet the expectations of citizens and people who volunteer at the shelter, it comes back to you. So I have no problem with looking at, the possibility of contracting this out to another humane society. But one of the things that I would talk about before we do that is that we make sure that the responsibilities for that lie firmly with that humane society. Contract before included things like we kept the facility. It was ours. We didn't fully lease it to them, so we did all the maintenance. We did all of the upkeep. We did all the modifications to that facility. So before I'd walk down that path, I'd want to have a conversation with the prosecutor's office to find out if we do that, if we would go, with a contract with the Humane Society, can we give that responsibility for that building and for everything that encompasses that process to that Humane Society? In other words, they lease the facility from us, just like we lease our stream facility out at Milford. They have responsibility for that building and its upkeep, complete, and that they provide this service completely for Clermont County. And if there is a company out there that has a professional service to do that, I think it would be only prudent business to take a look at that and see, who's available. So, and that'd be something we'd probably want to talk to with the administrator and get with the prosecutor's office and see, because if you have to keep this responsibility, if that's like it was before, you really continue to have this dialogue here. We had many complaints previously to have a Humane Society run it from people who called even from Eastgate Mall that said, there was a dog in a hot car that was locked up and they'd called the Humane Society and the Humane Society didn't respond. And so that falls directly to the commissioners and you're right in the middle of it. And that doesn't really help the situation totally. If you're going to entertain that, you want to make sure that you can entertain it so that they can do it and run it as a private entity, because we don't want to get in the middle of doing modifications on that building while someone else has it. Just like a storefront, you lease a storefront to a company and they're responsible for all the modifications inside the facility and what they want to do.
And that's all good information because I came on board just as the commissioners were set to take it over. So I didn't have to deal with the people that had it before. So
like, for instance, when the HVAC system broke down, you were responsible as commissioners to have that repaired. When it comes to vehicles and trucks that their wardens will need, you're responsible for buying those vehicles and trucks and then putting them in there. And so that was all part of the negotiations of the contract. I would want it looked at very seriously as to, how much of this can we put in a contract and them be responsible for their destiny. If that makes sense. Absolutely.
Commissioners, we'd be happy to take a look at that, work with Administrator Eigel and Angie as necessary to look into those questions. I think those are good questions to ask before you, certainly look before you leap, sort of thing. So happy
Absolutely.
to help with that.
Because we leaped in this particular space before, and many of the complaints that you've heard in these meetings, those same complaints came to the commissioners before. If you had a problem with the air conditioning, or you had a problem with kennels, or you had a problem with cover, or you had a problem with, obtaining medical services, or all that comes right back. But that was the type of contract that was written at that time. So like I said, if there's professional services out there and it could subcontract this out, by all means, I think we should look at that.
We've heard it week after week, so I just brought this up. I want them to know we do listen to what they say.
And the other thing is that the bidding process, that's one of the things that people that don't work in that all the time will take some time. You will have to scope this project out. You obviously have to put a business proposal together and a set of specifications as to what that's going to look like. And then that's going to have to be bid, openly bid, and proposals evaluated, and then decide on who is the most responsible bidder. And that's who that contract will go to. And then obviously the prosecutor's office has to review it, and then it has to be approved for usage. So it's not something that's going to happen in the next 30 days. That won't happen. But keep in mind, when it comes to sheltering those animals, you as a commission are ultimately responsible for that. It is an ORC provision. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Anything else? I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you for joining us on this day, October 2nd, 2024, at the Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting. We look forward to you coming back next Wednesday. Thank you.